In today's stories, we follow the terrifying last moments of 3 people attacked by sharks. From a sea turtle that led 2 sisters away from safety to a sunrise swim meant to honor a daughter's memory. Our journey begins in the central Bahamas, where the terrifying last minutes of Kelsey Dunham began with a promise to keep her sister safe. It was June 18th, 2015, in the central Bahamas. The water off the small island's western shore was calm that morning, with visibility reaching nearly 60 feet in some areas. The tour company operated out of a weathered dock near the main resort strip, running 3 snorkeling trips daily during peak season. The boat that morning carried 11 passengers, including 2 sisters from Ohio. Kelsey Dunham was 24 years old. She worked as a dental assistant in Columbus and had spent the previous 14 months saving money specifically for this trip. Her younger sister Emma was 16, finishing her sophomore year of high school. This was their first vacation together without their parents. Their parents had agreed to let them travel alone after Kelsey promised multiple times that she would watch Emma constantly and follow every safety guideline. The sisters arrived in the Bahamas 2 days earlier. They had spent most of their time on the beach, with Kelsey repeatedly checking that Emma wore sunscreen and stayed hydrated. Emma later told investigators that her sister had been almost overly protective during the trip, constantly asking if she felt safe or needed anything. The snorkeling excursion was planned as the highlight of their vacation. Neither sister had snorkeled in open water before, though both had practiced in a pool before leaving Ohio. The tour guide provided basic instructions on the boat. He demonstrated how to clear the snorkel, explained hand signals for communication, and told the group to stay within sight of the boat at all times. He mentioned that the reef was generally safe, but advised against touching anything or swimming into deeper water beyond the reef's edge. There were no specific warnings about sharks that morning. The guide later stated that he had seen bull sharks in the area before, but encounters with snorkelers were extremely rare. Bull sharks are among the most dangerous shark species and are found in tropical waters worldwide, including the Bahamas. They frequently venture into shallow coastal areas and are known for their ability to tolerate both salt and fresh water. Adults typically measure 7 to 11 feet in length and weigh between 200 and 500 pounds. They have stocky, powerful bodies with broad, flat snouts and are highly aggressive and unpredictable compared to other shark species. Their bite force is among the strongest of all sharks, and their triangular, serrated teeth are designed to tear through flesh and bone efficiently. When one shark attacks and draws blood, others in the area are often attracted to the disturbance. The group entered the water at approximately 9:47 a.m. Kelsey and Emma stayed close together initially, swimming near the center of the group. The guide remained on the surface, periodically diving down to point out fish or coral to the tourists. Roughly 18 minutes into the snorkel, Emma spotted a sea turtle swimming along the reef's edge. She grabbed Kelsey's arm and pointed. The turtle was moving away from the main group, heading toward slightly deeper water where the reef sloped downward. Emma began swimming after it, and Kelsey followed immediately. Neither sister signaled to the guide or looked back to check their distance from the boat. The sisters followed the turtle for approximately 2 minutes, covering an estimated 100 feet from the main group. The water depth increased to nearly 30 feet. Emma was slightly ahead, focused on the turtle, while Kelsey swam a few feet behind and to the left. The bull shark approached from Kelsey's right side, coming from deeper water beyond the reef. The guide estimated the shark was between 8 and 9 feet long, based on descriptions from witnesses. It struck Kelsey's right thigh without warning. The initial bite lasted approximately 2 to 3 seconds. Kelsey's body jerked violently to the side, and she began thrashing at the surface. Emma turned at the sound of splashing. She saw her sister's mask had come off, and blood was spreading rapidly in the water around her right leg. Kelsey was hitting the water with her arms and kicking with her left leg. Emma began screaming through her snorkel and swimming toward her sister. The shark released Kelsey's leg and circled back. It struck again within 10 to 15 seconds, this time biting her lower torso and hip area. The impact pulled Kelsey partially underwater. Emma reached her sister approximately 5 seconds later and grabbed her left arm, trying to pull her toward the surface. She could see the shark's thick gray body next to Kelsey underwater. 2 other snorkelers, both men in their 30s, began swimming toward the sisters. The guide was approximately 60 feet away and started shouting for everyone to return to the boat. He began swimming toward Kelsey and Emma while blowing a whistle attached to his vest. A second bull shark appeared from the same direction as the first. This shark was slightly smaller, estimated at 7 to 8 feet. It approached the area where blood was now clouding the water. Emma was still holding Kelsey's arm at the surface when she saw the second shark pass directly beneath them. She screamed again and tried to pull harder, but Kelsey's body was being pulled in the opposite direction underwater. The first shark had not released Kelsey's torso. The second shark began biting at her legs and lower body. Emma's grip on her sister's arm broke. Kelsey disappeared beneath the surface completely. The water was too clouded with blood for Emma to see clearly, but she could see dark shapes moving violently below. The guide reached Emma and grabbed her around the waist. She fought against him, trying to dive down toward where her sister had gone under. The guide was significantly larger and managed to drag Emma backward through the water. She continued screaming and reaching toward the area where Kelsey had disappeared. The disturbance in the water continued for another 20 to 30 seconds, suggesting the sharks were still actively biting below the surface. The guide pulled Emma approximately 30 feet away before 2 other tourists helped bring her back to the boat. The entire attack sequence lasted between 2 and 3 minutes from the initial bite. The boat captain had already started the engine. Once Emma and the guide were aboard, along with the other tourists, the captain moved the boat closer to where Kelsey had gone under. The guide and captain scanned the water but could not see her. Blood continued to spread across the surface in a wide area. They waited approximately 5 minutes, circling slowly, but Kelsey did not resurface. The boat returned to the dock, and local authorities were contacted at 10:31 a.m. A search began within 40 minutes, using 2 boats and several volunteers from nearby dive operations. Emma remained on the dock with the tour company owner, in shock and largely unresponsive. The boat captain stayed with her while the guide returned to the water to help with the search. Kelsey's body was recovered approximately 3.5 hours later, roughly 300 yards from the attack site. The current had carried her along the reef line into slightly deeper water. The body showed severe trauma consistent with multiple shark bites from at least 2 animals. Her right leg had been severed at mid-thigh. The left leg showed deep cuts and tissue loss. The torso and hip area showed extensive damage with large sections of tissue removed. The medical examiner determined that the cause of death was massive blood loss and drowning, occurring within 2 to 3 minutes of the initial attack. The examiner noted that survival would have been impossible even with immediate medical care. The local police ruled the death accidental. The tour company was questioned about safety protocols, but no criminal charges were filed as the company had followed standard operating procedures for the area. Kelsey's parents flew to the Bahamas the following day and brought both daughters home. Emma required psychological counseling for over 2 years following the incident. The family did not pursue legal action. Kelsey's father told a family friend that no lawsuit would bring his daughter back, and that Kelsey had made the choice to follow the turtle away from the group. Emma has not gone swimming in the ocean since. The sisters' vacation had ended in blood-stained Bahamian waters, but off the California coast, a spear fisherman would learn that his catch had marked him as prey in familiar kelp forests. It was August 12, 2016, off the coast of Central California. The kelp forest stretched for nearly 3 miles along the coastline, with depths ranging from 30 to 70 feet. The area was popular with spear fishermen due to abundant populations of calico bass, sheephead, and occasionally yellowtail. Derek Navarro was 38 years old. He worked as a restaurant owner in San Diego, running a seafood establishment that specialized in locally caught fish. He had been spearfishing for 15 years and competed in regional tournaments throughout California and Baja, Mexico. He had placed in the top 3 in several competitions over the previous 2 years, and was known among the local spearfishing community for his ability to find and harvest large fish. He often posted photos of his catches on social media. Derek's wife, Maria, was 5 months pregnant with their first child. They had been trying to conceive for 3 years before succeeding. Maria later told investigators that Derek had been excited about becoming a father, but also anxious about the financial responsibilities. He had been working longer hours at the restaurant and spending more time spearfishing, both to relax and to provide fresh fish for the restaurant's menu, which reduced food costs. That morning, Derek left his house at 5:15 a.m. He drove 40 minutes north to a beach access point he had used many times before. He was alone, which was his preference for early morning dives. He had told Maria the night before that he would be back by noon. He launched from the beach in a kayak, paddling roughly half a mile offshore to reach the kelp forest. He anchored the kayak to the kelp and entered the water at approximately 6:30 a.m. Derek was wearing a 7mm wetsuit, weight belt, fins, mask, and snorkel. He carried a spear gun and had a fish stringer with a float attached to his weight belt. He also wore a GoPro camera mounted on his mask, which he used to record his dives for later review and occasional social media posts. The camera was recording when he entered the water. There were no posted warnings about sharks that morning, though a local fishing charter had reported seeing a large shark, possibly a white shark, approximately 3 miles south 2 days earlier. Derek was aware of the general presence of white sharks in California waters. He had mentioned to other spear fishermen in the past that he considered the risk manageable if proper precautions were taken, such as not keeping fish on a stringer for extended periods and staying aware of surroundings. Great white sharks are the largest predatory fish in the ocean, typically ranging from 11 to 16 feet in length and weighing between 1,500 and 4,000 pounds. Subadult white sharks, 8 to 12 feet long, are common in California coastal waters during late summer and fall. They hunt primarily by ambush, approaching prey from below and behind using darker water and kelp cover for concealment. White sharks are curious and often investigate unfamiliar objects by biting them. Even an investigatory bite can cause catastrophic injuries due to their size and power. Their serrated triangular teeth, up to 3 inches long, are designed to tear through flesh and blubber. White sharks are particularly attracted to struggling fish and low-frequency vibrations in the water. Blood from injured fish can travel significant distances depending on current conditions, making spear fishermen at elevated risk. Derek spent approximately 50 minutes diving in the kelp forest. The GoPro footage recovered later showed him swimming through kelp channels, scanning for fish. He speared his first fish, a calico bass weighing approximately 3 pounds, at 6:58 a.m. He attached it to his stringer and continued diving. Over the next 35 minutes, he speared 2 more fish, another calico bass and a sheephead weighing roughly 4 pounds. All 3 fish remained on the stringer, which was clipped to his belt with the float trailing at the surface. At approximately 7:41 a.m., Derek began ascending toward the surface. He was in roughly 45 feet of water, swimming upward through a gap in the kelp. The fish on his stringer were trailing several feet below and behind him. The GoPro footage showed kelp passing on either side as he kicked upward. The white shark struck from below and behind, approaching through the kelp. The shark was estimated at 13 to 14 feet in length, based on later analysis of the footage and bite marks. It bit Derek's lower back, buttocks, and upper legs, its jaws closing around his body from behind. The impact drove Derek forward and upward in the water. The camera angle shifted dramatically, showing flashes of the shark's white underside and dark back, along with kelp. Derek reached the surface and began shouting. The audio on the GoPro captured his voice, though the words were not clearly distinguishable over the sound of splashing. He was approximately 120 feet from his kayak. The shark had released him after the initial bite, which lasted approximately 3 to 4 seconds. Blood was visible in the water around Derek, spreading quickly. He began swimming toward the kayak, using his arms and kicking with his legs. though his kick was noticeably weaker than normal. The fish stringer was still attached to his belt, and the 3 fish were still on it, trailing behind him in the water. Derek reached down toward his belt with his right hand twice, apparently attempting to release the stringer clip, but his hands were shaking, and he did not successfully detach it. The shark struck again approximately 30 seconds after the first bite. This attack came from the side and slightly below. The shark's head and upper body broke the surface briefly as its jaws closed around Derek's left side and torso. The force of the bite pulled Derek partially underwater. The GoPro footage showed the shark's eye and gill slits passing close to the camera, then churning water and blood. Derek resurfaced after approximately 4 to 5 seconds. He was no longer holding his spear gun. His arms moved at the surface, but with significantly less strength. The stringer had been torn away from his belt during the second attack. The water around him was heavily clouded with blood, in a radius of approximately 10 feet. He did not shout again. His movements became progressively weaker. He appeared to be attempting to float on his back, but could not maintain the position. His breathing was audible on the camera audio, rapid and shallow. The shark circled approximately 20 feet away, visible as a dark shape beneath the surface. It did not attack again. Derek remained conscious and moving weakly at the surface for approximately 2 to 3 minutes before his movement stopped. His body floated face down. The GoPro continued recording, showing the sky and kelp from the water's surface. The shark approached once more and bumped Derek's body with its snout, but did not bite. After approximately 1 minute, the body began to sink slowly as water entered the wetsuit through the bite wounds. The camera angle tilted downward, showing kelp and darkening water as Derek's body descended to approximately 30 feet before becoming entangled in kelp. The footage continued recording until the camera's battery died approximately 42 minutes later. Derek's kayak was found drifting offshore by a recreational fishing boat at approximately 10:45 a.m. The crew noticed the kayak was empty with the anchor line detached and reported it to authorities. A search began within 30 minutes using patrol boats and a helicopter. Derek's body was located by the helicopter crew at 1:18 p.m., suspended in kelp approximately 30 feet below the surface, roughly half a mile north of where he had been diving. The body was recovered by a dive team. The medical examiner determined that Derek died from exsanguination caused by 2 massive bite wounds. The first bite severed major blood vessels in his lower back, buttocks, and legs, including the gluteal arteries and branches of the internal iliac arteries. The second bite caused catastrophic damage to his left torso, puncturing his lung and damaging his spleen and liver. Death occurred within 4 to 6 minutes of the first bite due to massive blood loss, with drowning listed as a contributing factor. The GoPro camera was still attached to Derek's mask when his body was recovered. The footage showed that Derek had attempted to release the fish stringer after the first bite, but was unable to do so. Marine biologists who reviewed the footage stated that the shark's behavior was consistent with predatory interest, triggered by the struggling fish on the stringer, and that the initial bite appeared to be investigatory, with the shark likely mistaking Derek for a seal or sea lion in the low-visibility kelp environment. The footage was never released to the public. Maria requested that authorities keep it sealed, and the county sheriff's department agreed, citing the graphic nature of the content and respect for the family's privacy. The footage remains in evidence storage and has been viewed only by investigators, marine biologists conducting research, and Derek's immediate family. Derek's wife, Maria, gave birth to their daughter 4 months later. She named the child Sophia, a name she and Derek had chosen together. The kelp forest had claimed a hunter who became the hunted, but on a North Carolina beach, a grieving mother's memorial swim would end in waters that held far more than memories. It was September 9th, 2017, on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. The beach stretched for miles in both directions, with sand dunes rising 20 to 30 feet high behind the shore. Visibility in the water was poor, approximately 3 to 6 feet, due to storms 2 days earlier that had stirred up sediment along the coast. A sandbar ran parallel to the beach, roughly 75 yards offshore. creating a shallow area where waves broke before reaching the shore. Linda Pritchard was 51 years old. She lived in a small house 4 blocks from the beach with her husband, Robert. She had been swimming in the ocean nearly every morning for the past 12 years, typically entering the water around sunrise and swimming parallel to the shore for 20 to 30 minutes. She was a strong swimmer and had completed several open-water swimming events in her 40s. Neighbors and other regular beachgoers recognized her as a fixture of the early morning beach scene. Linda's daughter Claire had died 3 years earlier, on September 9, 2014, in a car accident. Claire was 19 years old at the time, home from college for the weekend. She had been driving back to school when her car was struck by another vehicle on the highway. Linda had struggled significantly with the loss. She had taken a leave of absence from her job as a bank teller and spent months barely leaving the house. Her husband later told investigators that swimming had been one of the few activities that seemed to help Linda cope with her grief. The beach where Linda swam held particular significance. It was the location where she had taught Claire to swim when Claire was 5 years old. Linda had mentioned to several friends over the years that she felt closest to her daughter when she was in the water at that spot. On the anniversary of Claire's death each year, Linda would swim at sunrise, spending longer in the water than usual. That morning, Linda woke at 5:30 a.m. She told her husband she was going to the beach. Robert asked if she wanted him to come with her, as he had on the previous 2 anniversaries, but Linda said she preferred to go alone. She walked to the beach, arriving at approximately 6:15 a.m. A lifeguard station was located roughly 300 yards south of where Linda entered the water, but it was not staffed at that hour. Lifeguards typically arrived at 9 a.m. during September. 2 surfers were in the water approximately 400 yards north of Linda's entry point. They later told investigators they had arrived around 6 a.m. Neither had seen anything unusual in the water before Linda arrived. Linda entered the water at 6:22 a.m. She waded out to chest depth, then began swimming parallel to the shore, heading south. Her husband, Robert, had walked to the beach separately and was sitting on the sand near the dune line, approximately 120 feet from the water. He had brought a thermos of coffee and intended to wait for Linda to finish her swim, as he had done on the previous 2 anniversaries. Bull sharks are among the most dangerous shark species to humans, typically measuring 7 to 11 feet in length and weighing between 200 and 500 pounds. They are common in North Carolina coastal waters, particularly during warmer months, and frequently hunt in murky, shallow surf zones where visibility is poor. Unlike most sharks, bull sharks can tolerate brackish and fresh water, allowing them to enter estuaries, river mouths, and near-shore areas where people swim. They are territorial and aggressive hunters with stocky, powerful bodies built for ambush attacks in turbulent water. Their teeth are designed to grip and tear flesh, and they often target the lower extremities of prey in shallow water. Bull sharks are particularly active during dawn and dusk, and are attracted to areas with poor visibility where they can approach prey undetected. Linda swam south along the beach for approximately 14 minutes. She remained in water that ranged from chest to shoulder depth, occasionally swimming over the sandbar where the depth decreased to waist level. Robert watched her from the beach, tracking her movement as she progressed down the shoreline. The 2 surfers to the north were focused on catching waves and were not paying attention to Linda. The bull shark approached from deeper water beyond the sandbar. It was estimated at 8 to 9 feet in length, based on later examination of the bite wounds. The shark likely detected Linda's swimming movements through vibrations in the water. The poor visibility and churned-up sediment from recent storms created ideal hunting conditions. Neither Linda nor anyone on the beach saw the shark before it struck. The attack occurred at approximately 6:36 a.m. The shark bit Linda's left leg at mid-thigh. The bite was immediate and devastating, the shark's jaws closing around her thigh and severing through muscle, bone, and major blood vessels. Linda screamed and fell sideways into the water. Robert heard the scream from the beach and stood up immediately. He could see Linda approximately 90 yards away, thrashing in the water. The shark released Linda's leg after the initial bite, but remained in the immediate area. Linda resurfaced, screaming. The water around her turned dark red with blood. Her arms were moving frantically, but she was not able to swim or make progress toward the shore. The thrashing and blood in the water triggered a second attack. Robert began running toward the water, shouting for help. The two surfers to the north heard the screaming and looked toward the commotion. One of them immediately began paddling in Linda's direction. The other followed within seconds. The shark struck again within 5 to 7 seconds, this time biting her right side and torso. The force of the bite pulled Linda completely underwater. She did not resurface immediately. The surfer who had paddled first reached the area where Linda had gone under within approximately 50 seconds. He could see blood spreading across the surface in a large area, but could not see Linda or the shark clearly due to the murky water and blood. He hesitated, scanning the water. Linda's body surfaced approximately 15 feet from where she had gone under, roughly 8 seconds after disappearing. The surfer paddled quickly to her and grabbed her arm. He attempted to pull her onto his surfboard, which required help from the second surfer who had just arrived. Linda was unconscious and unresponsive. Her left leg showed massive trauma with the thigh nearly severed, hanging by remaining tissue and skin. Her right side and torso showed a large bite wound with deep lacerations and exposed tissue. The surfers began paddling toward shore as quickly as possible, with Linda draped across one of the boards. Robert had entered the water and was wading out toward them. He was waist deep when the surfers reached him. He helped pull Linda off the surfboard and began dragging her toward the beach. The surfers assisted, and together they brought her onto the sand. Robert immediately began applying pressure to the wound on her leg, pressing both hands against the thigh, but the blood loss was massive and continuous. One of the surfers ran toward the nearest beach access point to find someone with a phone to call for emergency services. Linda did not regain consciousness. Robert continued trying to stop the bleeding, pressing his hands against her leg and side. The other surfer removed his wetsuit top and pressed it against the torso wound, but the injuries were too severe. Linda's breathing was shallow and irregular. She stopped breathing approximately 4 minutes after being brought onto the beach. Robert began CPR, but there was no response. Emergency medical personnel arrived at the beach at 7:03 a.m., approximately 27 minutes after the attack. They pronounced Linda dead at the scene. The medical examiner later determined that the cause of death was exsanguination from multiple shark bites. The left leg had been bitten through the femoral artery and femoral vein, causing immediate massive blood loss. The torso wound had caused additional severe bleeding and damage to the liver and lower ribs. The examiner estimated that Linda had lost consciousness within 90 seconds to 2 minutes of the initial bite due to blood loss, and likely died within 5 to 6 minutes. The examiner noted that the injuries were not survivable even with immediate trauma care. The beach was closed for 4 days following the attack. Marine biologists surveyed the area and confirmed the presence of at least one large bull shark in the vicinity, though they could not determine which individual was responsible. The biologists noted that poor visibility, warmer than normal temperatures, and recent storms that may have pushed bait fish closer to shore had likely contributed to increased shark activity in shallow water. Robert Pritchard did not speak publicly about the incident. He continued living in the same house near the beach for 3 months, but never returned to the water. Robert had lost both his daughter and his wife on September 9th, 3 years apart. He moved to Virginia to live near his brother in December of that year. Thanks for watching. If you liked these stories, click here